Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Girls Go Fly interviews. And this morning, I'm really excited because we have an amazing woman pilot. Her name is Fly Girl Kelley. Her real name is Natalie Kelly, but she goes by the handle of Fly Girl Kelley. She has some great swag. She's got some great photos and great posts on her Instagram account. She also hosts a podcast, so she'll tell us all about that. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome her, and I'd like to thank you all for being here. And if you're watching this later on, stay till the end because it's going to be really inspiring and really exciting. So here we go. Hello and welcome to you, Natalie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good.
So we're pilots. What's the weather like over there? Is it flyable
It's
today?
it's flyable, but it's really cold. We woke up and it was like in the 20s, so wasn't too happy about that. I'm ready for spring weather.
Yeah, I know. I had the same problem yesterday. It was it snowed here yesterday. I was like, that's a bad April Fool's Day
I
joke.
know. Where do you live?
Montreal, Quebec, Canada. So we're
Oh
kind of
goodness,
expecting
yeah.
it, but in April we still don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah. I have
All right, great.
I have a tennis teammate who's from Canada, and she is always complaining about the cold. She thought she moved far enough south, but I think she's going to have to keep going a little bit further to get away from the snow.
Yeah, I think we got to get close to that equator if we want to have any
Yeah.
kind of heat, especially in April. All right, great. So, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did the sky call to you? What resonated inside you about flying?
Well, my dad was a pilot in the Navy when I was younger. I remember him going off on, deployments and flying and just talking about it. I never flew with him, of course, but I was always interested because I thought he's doing all these cool things. He's going all these cool places and bringing back, little trinkets and gifts for my sister and I. And I thought it was very mysterious. I was like, what is he doing? Why does he get to go to all these places? So it was always kind of like, he's cool. This is cool. He's cool. He's a pilot. I could tell people kind of would gather around him to listen to stories of him flying, and I knew what he did was really cool. Um, but I really flew with my uncle when I was younger. He was a private pilot, and that was a hobby for him, not his career. So he would fly on the weekends, and he had two sons, and I don't think they were that into flying, but he would ask me, and I wanted to go. So that's kind of how I got introduced to general aviation and flying. And always in the back of my head, I thought that's something I would like to do one day. And so, it was just like on my bucket list that I had created. And one day is about 5 years ago, I guess, going on. It just dawned on me that now's the time. The clock is ticking, and it was 43, I think, at the time. And I thought, I got to get moving on this if I'm going to make it happen and really enjoy it. So once I started, I was just all in. And the more I went to flight lessons, the more I wanted to learn, the more I wanted to fly. And it was just kind of addictive in a way, and so empowering. I loved it.
Nice. So that's funny because I just realized you and I are the same age. Like, I think exactly the same age, and we started almost at the same time. So
Yeah.
this is really neat. Great. And so, do you remember the first day of your journey? Like when you said, "Okay, I'm going to do this." What was the first thing you did?
Well, I remember two specific days. Really, the day that I decided to start was kind of I wouldn't say depressing, but it was kind of a day that my family was in a lot of stress with some family issues, and I was just like, I got to step away somewhat, and I've got to do something else, and something that's really enjoyable, because I was just kind of getting consumed by some of this family stress. So I remember that day very vividly, and I remember going to find my bucket list that I had created. I had it in a scrapbook, and it had 1999 written at the top of it. That's when I created it, and um, that day was just like, it was just like an awakening. All of a sudden I thought, what am I waiting for? I need to do this now. Now's the time. So I remember that day, and I remember calling the school, and we have a school that's well known here, Sporty's Academy, and I called them up and set up my discovery flight, I guess you'll call it, about 2 weeks later. And then I remember the day 2 weeks later actually going, and I was so nervous. I think I bought like this private pilot learn to fly kit, and it included like a flight bag and an E6B and charts and books and things like that. And I had my flight bag and everything with all the books. And I remember walking in, I remember walking to the door and turning around and going like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm old. I'm a woman. I'm like, people are going to look at me like I'm crazy.
That's so funny. I just love, I'm not laughing at you, of course. I'm just laughing because it's such a familiar feeling, you know, like, what am I doing? Am I crazy? I'm old. Like, I went through the same thing of like, what, like, holy, like, why am I doing this now? You know, why didn't I do this 25 years ago when I wanted to? Like, what's wrong with me, right?
Exactly. Yeah. A lot of, I mean, of course, I think in life we always are in hindsight, and we think, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do this years ago? And kind of beat myself up over that. But, and then once I got into it, I felt like so behind. I don't know if you did too, but I felt like I'm behind like 20 years. So I've got to like step it up and get moving pretty quickly on this. But yeah, it was really scary and intimidating. And, I've been a stay-at-home mom, and it was, I felt like I had like mom stamped on my forehead as I walked in.
That's funny. And did you have this feeling of like, where are the other women?
Not really, because I knew there really weren't going to be that many women in there. I mean, it's just from the nature of this, kind of community. I've been around it because I've been to air shows with my uncle, and I've been to like fly-ins and pancake breakfasts and all that stuff. So I knew there weren't going to be a lot of women there. And I guess it didn't really hit me as being something that, I wouldn't say it bothered me, but it would have been comforting to have more women around. And I think that might have hit me maybe within the first week or so, that it was like, I'm starting to feel like I was just surrounded by young men that were on the way to the airlines. And, that wasn't really what I was interested in. I just wanted to learn to fly for fun, maybe fly my family. I had no idea where it was going to lead. But I definitely felt a little different, a little separated somewhat from the main group there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wow. And throughout your journey, so just so we understand, how long did it take you from like zero to hero? Like, how long did it take you to go from ab initio to licensed pilot? And of course, there's never any judgment in that, because we all take the time we take. Like, I got my glider license in like 11 months, but I got my powered license in like 3.5 years, because I ended up hurting my back in the process. And so,
goodness,
so we each have our stories. We each have our stories, which is fine. But it's really about, what was the timeline like? And then my next question is, were there any discouragements and moments where you thought, okay, this was obviously a bad idea, I should just stop right now? Like, how did that go?
Of course. I mean, I feel like that's, I would think every pilot would have some kind of story like that. If they don't, then that's amazing. So I started in, I believe it was July. Hang on, let me look at my solo t-shirt. That reminds me. Yeah, I started in July of 2016. And so I think by the time I got my private, it was probably the following spring. I had a lot of hours. I mean, I probably had like 70 hours. And people say, I mean, my instructor kept telling me, I had a few different instructors, because, they would leave and go to the airlines and stuff, and I'd get a different instructor. But one of them was just like, you have been ready for so long. Why don't you just go ahead and do this? And I was so nervous about taking this check ride. I just kept putting it off. I wasn't, I was just not sure, and I didn't want to fail. I wanted to be 100% sure that I was ready. And he was like, oh my goodness, you are just like, and I read something actually about how men are much more likely to just, I feel like 80% ready, I'll just go for it. And women
Yeah.
are much more like, I want to feel like 100% ready before
Yeah.
I stick my neck out there and go for it.
Yeah, and that's true in everything. And that's funny that you should mention that, because I just actually finished writing a book in French about women's leadership, and I just got the message from the publisher yesterday that it was actually published yesterday. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Oh, cool!
Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you. And in the book, I did a lot of research. Of course, I didn't think writing a funny enough, I didn't think writing a book was going to require this much research, but it did.
Yeah.
And in the process, though, I discovered some really interesting stats and facts. And one of the stats that I discovered was that the reason why women want that 100% insurance in their head to go forward and the men don't is that we have 7 times less testosterone than they do. And it's the testosterone hormone that gives the confidence boost and keeps it there. So you'll have guys,
like physical.
Yeah, it's completely chemical
Yeah.
and the chemistry in their bodies, and we don't really have that as much. Like, we do, but very little compared to them, and therefore our confidence kind of fluctuates a lot more than theirs does. And so that's why women always feel like they're not ready, and men always feel like they're more than ready, even if they aren't.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's an interesting, reverse correlation between the two genders. And so that explains, a lot of the reasons why we, take longer to take the next job. We don't apply to that next position because we look at the list and we go, well, I don't have this and I don't have this, but I've got everything else. And well, that's not enough, right? Whereas the guys look and go, oh, I've got half of it. Oh, it's good enough.
Yeah.
Go, right. Because it's in his DNA, right? So, and so once you understand that, I think it's not so much as like an excuse for us, but it's more for an understanding and being kind with ourselves and being gentle about it and saying, well, I'm not being a pain. That's just,
that is so true. Yeah. And I would beat myself up about that. It's like, why am I not feeling like I'm ready? He thinks I'm ready. Why do I not believe in myself so much,
Yeah.
So, yeah. Plus it'd been like 20, it'd been over 20 years, I guess, since I'd taken a test.
Yeah. Yeah. So that too.
That was really scary to me. It's been a long time since I've been in school, and just the whole studying process was a whole new learning thing for me. It'd been so long since I'd done that.
Yeah. And I guess, I don't know exactly, but when you're 20, who do you have to take care of? You. And then when you're 40 something, I suppose you have a family.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you have, meals to make and work and or whatever it is you do, that your days are filled. You're not just like focusing on in French, we call it nombrilisme, which is focusing on your belly button. You're not just focusing. You don't have just your belly button to focus on. You have other belly buttons to focus on. Yeah. And so it makes that, that much more demanding, because your days are not just yours, fully. They belong to other people. Yeah.
I found that I had, and I feel like I'm a pretty structured, organized person, but I found that I had to become really structured, with my time and planning when I was going to study every day, when I was going to fly, when I'd have time to do all the family shopping, when I need to fit in the activities of my boys. And it was very compartmentalized, and things that like personal issues or, things that emotional things, I would say I had to, it was interesting because I was talking to my dad about it, and he was like, you have to learn to compartmentalize everything, because you can't take all that baggage with you when you're flying and you're trying to learn, and being able to shut off my emotions and put things on the back burner, that were waiting. I don't know if you have a family, but there's always something. There's always some kind of drama in the family dynamic, and I think women, that really settles in with women, and it's just in our brains all the time, and being able to learn to shut that off and just focus on the moment when I was in the airplane was an interesting learning thing. It was just like, this is the way I have to do it if I'm going to get this done. I've got to leave all that other stuff behind, and learning to compartmentalize things like that.
I can totally relate. I have a family too. I have a son, and while I was training, I was raising him by myself, and I was working full time. And I have a boyfriend, but he's a pilot. Well, he was. Right now he's not, but he was a pilot for the airlines, and so he was traveling all the time. And I was traveling for work too. So it was like a real, jigsaw puzzle. And one of the things I think that helped me the most when you're talking about, clear your head and just is that I was reading a lot of books about, the Eckhart Tolle book about being in the now and the power of now and just being in the present moment. And I think when you fly, that's one of the most important, important elements you can develop and skills you can develop is just like right now you're flying, like, that's it. You're flying, like, and that's it. You gotta just, everything else has to stay at the door of like before you walk into that even before you walk into the room where you're going to plan your flight. Like it's gotta to stay there. And then the next thing is all about planning and then flying and then, aviate, navigate, communicate, and then landing and then putting the airplane away. And then when that's done, the rest of your life can come back into play.
Yeah, totally. And that's one of the great things about flying, right? We love it because we can kind of stop everything else and enjoy that time in the airplane. But it is kind of, normally on everyday activities, you're always thinking about, well, how am I going to get food to him? How am I going to pick him up? I need to think about that. You're trying to work things out in your head all the time, and learning to shut that off is hard, but it's also like a great thing once you do it. And once you figure out, actually, I really like escaping in the airplane.
So much, huh? It's do you do any other activities where you find that?
Well, I used to play the piano quite a bit, and I kind of equate it to, like artists and things like that. Once they get kind of in there, I don't consider myself an artist, but I can imagine, like if you're a painter or, a real musician, that when you're doing that, you're just completely focused on that, and you can't think about anything else. So you're just going to suck at it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like getting in that zone, right? You're in that zone of creativity and creation. And so, it's funny because I also scuba dive. And when I scuba dive, I have the same feeling of technical ability, because scuba diving also requires that you make sure your equipment is good and that you make sure you're refreshed on your skills and your emergency maneuvers if something happens to your equipment. And it's the same kind of mindset as flying. And then but you really have to remain focused, but you're calm and it's a nice escape. So and the view is beautiful, right? So there's things that kind of, so I always say to people, I like being under the water or in the sky, but on the ground is like, meh. Okay, but if I could choose,
escape all the time.
No, I like being on the ground, but it's just not as spectacular. The view is just not as nice, and it's I don't know what you think about the whole perspective change when you fly, but it did a lot for me. Do you want to talk about that a bit, about what changed in your perspective when you became a pilot?
Well, are you talking about just like views from the airplane, or just about myself?
Everything, decision making, about ourselves, about how we view problems and issues, the way that we train. There's this training thing that we do for flying that have you ever applied it now to your life?
I would say I definitely becoming a pilot and having to I cut out a lot of like extracurricular kind of activities. And I think about it, my life was so full of stuff and just busy stuff. And once I wanted to start flying, I knew I wasn't going to have time to do all that stuff and dedicate myself to learning to fly. So I had to cut that out. And then I thought I would get back to it kind of, but like I've realized I don't really like that stuff so much, and cut out a lot of that. So much of it was just like what I felt like was required of me and what I felt like I should be doing as a mom, a wife, a sister, a daughter. And it wasn't really fulfilling me. And it's funny because I heard someone sometime in like a church when we were volunteering for chair positions or something. I was like, I'm just not feeling like I want to do any of these. And someone said, you shouldn't do something you don't feel called to do, because you're not going to be very good at it. And there's someone that has been created to do that specific job, that's will step up, and they're going to be perfect for it. And if you take that position, you're kind of cutting out someone that could be really good at it. And just realizing that it's okay to not be all these perfect things, and to try to have all this stuff and fill myself with what I think people expect of me, and do what I really like to do. And and I think with Fly Girl and everything, like, it's just come to me like, this is really what I was supposed to do. And it brings me so much fulfillment that these other things did not do. So it just seemed like everything just kind of fell into place, and I didn't know where it was going to lead, but I feel like I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. And I didn't really feel like that necessarily before. I felt like I was doing what was expected of me more so than what I was good at or what I really enjoyed.
Wow. Well, congratulations on on respecting yourself and honoring yourself there, because I think that that's probably the biggest gift we can give ourselves, is to honor ourselves. And I think even as moms, showing that, leading by example, and showing our kids that, I think it actually has more impact on them than we think. I think doing what's expected of us instead of being who we are is not necessarily giving them if we end up just doing what's expected of us, we're not showing them the best version of ourselves and the best way to live life. So
Yeah.
I'm sure your kids, do your boys start to see that? Do they start to see
I
that?
don't know. I don't really know. Their lives changed because, like, I wasn't doing as much helicopter parenting kind of things, and I wasn't making dinner every single night, and it just came down to, okay, now we're going to be having sandwiches a few times a week, or all these different things that kind of changed. I'm not sure what they really thought about it. Part of me is just like, well, it's time for them to learn to do some of these things anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So how long do I need to keep doing this? And I've got a 21-year-old, a 20-year-old, and a 16-year-old. And it's just like, I taught them to do their laundry. It was just like, okay, I need more time to study. So if they can do their laundry, that would help me a lot. And each little kid, if they do their own laundry, it's not like that big of a deal. It's like one load or something.
Yeah.
So it's just little things like that kind of forced them to take over some things that I was doing. Otherwise I wasn't gonna be able to have time to do the studying and everything. So it just had to be that way, and hopefully I haven't scarred them too bad.
No, personally, I think you've actually helped them, because you've made them independent at the time that they should be anyway, right? And
I hope so. I mean, I don't think they liked it too much. I think they've resisted quite a bit.
yeah, but that's just normal, right? I mean, kids resist because kids are kids. They're in the present moment. They're in the now. They just want to have fun. They don't understand anything about responsibility because they don't have it yet. And so our world seems like it's like a big question mark to them. Like, why do adults do this? Why do they, why? And
Well,
then
it's funny because I remember when I was young, I was a teenager, and I remember my mom doing something. I don't remember what it was, but it just like hit me like, oh my gosh, she's a person. She has like her own interests and her own dreams. It's not all about me. And it's just like, wow, it was just like this moment. I remember thinking, huh, she's actually a real person.
she's not just a mom. She's not just my mom. She's
I
actually
never knew
something
this
else.
about her or whatever. It was just like, huh, she had her own dreams and everything when she was a kid, and she was just like me. It was just like so bizarre. And I thought, my kids need to know. And I tell them sometimes, I am a person with my own dreams, and I had, childhood things that I want to do that you may not understand. And they do too. It's just like just because I'm your mom doesn't mean that I don't have other things I'm interested in. I love being a mom, but there are all these different parts of me, and you and everybody has all these different parts that we should be able to explore and go after. Yeah. They've been, I don't want to say they've been terrible. I gotta say this in case my kids see this. I would say, and they've said, that they're proud of me, and I think they are, and that we talk about flying quite a bit, and they're all boys, so I have 3 boys, and um, they've adjusted. So I don't want to make it sound like they don't like it and they don't like what I'm doing. They have been really supportive. They don't like flying as much as I wish. My older son likes it quite a bit, but the other 2 are not into it. And hopefully maybe one day they will be.
Yeah, and maybe they never will be. And
maybe they never will be.
That's
yeah.
another thing we have to, as parents, we just have to let go of that, because we all, when we discover the wonder of flying, because it's one of our dreams, and then we realize how much we love it, we kind of want them to love it as much as we do. And it's like,
True.
that's kind of like a misnomer, because if they don't,
That's
they
true.
don't. It's
Yeah.
their own lives, right? And if they might love something that we find like super boring and can't understand,
right. Like PlayStation or whatever.
yeah, like video games and all that, and and so you have 3 boys, I have 1 boy, and sometimes 15, he's just turning 15 in a couple of days, and 15-year-old jokes about what's funny on the internet somehow doesn't seem to make me laugh.
Yeah, true.
You look at that, you go, really? You find that funny? Okay.
Yeah,
but like, that's normal, right? Yeah. But that's normal. When we were 15, I'm sure we found some things funny and we can't remember now, but our parents were like, oh, really?
Yeah. Right.
So it's just the cycle of life that just keeps rolling over, right? From one generation to the next.
Fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. So is there a mentor, somebody who, like, that if it hadn't been for them in your progress, you wouldn't be where you are today, and you're so grateful for them? Anybody that you can think of? Or maybe more than one person?
There's a few people. I would say my uncle Robert was, big, because he was always kind of encouraging me and always asking me, even, when I wasn't really studying to be a pilot, I was raising young kids, and we would talk about it, and I'd take my kids to air shows and things like that and see him. So he always kind of like kept that little idea, in my head, and kept refreshing my memory about that. I would say once I started training, my dad was helpful and started talking about. He really didn't talk about flying, like the actual parts of it, and it was just like, oh well, I flew over here. And once he had retired from the Navy, he flew for FedEx, so he was doing a lot of flying, a lot of night flying, going like internationally all over the place. But I never learned from him, well, this is what you're going to learn. We're going to talk about VORs, or we're going to, but I could ask him questions once I'd kind of started training, and we really related a lot about aviation, and we're able to talk about that a lot. I would say my mom was really helpful in knowing that we were going through a lot of changes in the family, and with this whole new flying thing of mine, and then Fly Girl, and how that was changing the dynamics of our family. She has always been there with me through that. And then I would have to say, gosh, I'd say those are my main ones. I mean, there's been a lot.
Well, that's great. That's great, because those people supported you, and what's amazing in your case is that it's your whole family. There are all people in your family that supported you. I mean, I've interviewed quite a few women, and a lot of times it's the contrary. The family hasn't supported. And so,
well, I mean, I can't say, it's been a struggle in many ways. And, my mom would sometimes be mad at me because things like, I don't know how to put it, but it just changed. Like, I changed as a person, everything about me changed, and this created a new person, even like friends, and like I said, with my boys, and all, some people accepted it and embraced it, and some people not so much, and especially when all the Fly Girl stuff started coming out, and I'm putting my face out there on Instagram, and some people thought I was being I don't know what the word is, really
Pompous.
showy, maybe. I
Yeah,
don't know.
pompous and
Yeah,
arrogant
yeah,
and yeah.
and didn't really care for that persona that I was having, and it was like, well, it was really hard for it was an adjustment. You know, some friends were like not my friends anymore, just because not only was I interested in aviation, but it was just not something they could really understand what I was
Mm,
doing.
mm,
And it was a change. And I try to tell people all the time that, you know, you are going to change through this journey probably, and some people are going to be right there with you and on board, and some people just don't get it, and that's,
mm.
you know, people, that's just how life is.
Yeah.
And
But
yeah,
I think coming back to what you said earlier about you were always doing what was expected of you, and I think that's probably the biggest change for the people around you is that they
yeah,
were used to the Natalie that was doing what's expected of her, and then all of a sudden Natalie's no longer doing what's expected of her. She's doing what she really wants to do, and that's
yeah,
a bit of a slap in the face for the people around us, right? They don't get it because all they see is they know the previous you, and then now they see the new you, and they go, but I like the previous her. Like,
yeah,
why did she have to become the new her? I didn't ask for
right,
that. And so people are very, I think as human beings, sometimes we're very demanding of others.
mm-hmm,
Like we want them to be the way we want them to be. And
yeah,
we're used to that. And we don't really like it when they become somebody else because it's like, well, I didn't ask for that change. So,
yeah,
as humans, we're not very good with change.
yeah,
Unless I mean, I have a really weird background because my parents made us move all the time, and no, they weren't diplomats, and no, they weren't in the army. They just had the jitters, so we moved all the time. So I literally landed in different countries like regularly, and I had to like make new friends and learn new languages and whatever. And that was just my life. And so I'm actually really good at adapting to change because that's all I know.
yeah,
Stability is not like something part of my life. It's kind of like change is part of my life. So for me, change is like, yep, okay, whatever, bring it on.
yeah,
But most people are not like that. And so I think what's happening in your case and a lot of our cases, us women pilots, because there's so few of us, and you're right, our friends. When it was my journey, I thought, why is it I can't get any of my women friends to hop on
mm,
board? Why won't they come to the gliding club? Why won't they come and fly with me? They're all afraid. They're all they're all like, it's all like this big thing. And then I just kind of let it go and said, you know what? In French, we have an expression that says "Qui m'aime me suive." If you love me, follow me.
yeah,
Right.
right,
So if you can handle who I am,
yeah,
then you're welcome to be around me and we can continue our friendship. And if you can't, well, then we'll just part our ways,
right.
and it's okay.
Totally, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's okay. I mean, we just have different paths, and no hard feelings. But I don't want to adapt for you, you know, to make you comfortable. And really, it's just impossible to please everybody and to know what everybody wants and be what everybody needs all the time, you know. So once you kind of get comfortable with yourself and you can be like, look, this is who I am, just like you said, and hopefully, you know, people, I'll have some friends because everybody needs a little support group. I don't need a ton of friends, but you know, you only need a small support group. Then great. If this is not what you need me to be, then okay. You know, I can't control that.
Yeah. Great. Love it.
That
One
was
last
deep.
question. Huh? What?
I said that was deep.
Yeah, but it's good because I think that I really I find that these interviews for me are so important because it allows women and men who are deciding to make this change in their lives to realize to get to know what happens in our lives, right? And it's much more than, hey, I'm just going to decide to fly. It's got, flying is an all, as you said, it's an all monopolizing kind of activity
Yeah.
where
Right.
while you're training, while you're getting your license, and even after when you're flying, once you've got your license, you just want to fly. So
Yeah.
you make time for flying, which means
Mhm.
if you're sorry, if you're making time for flying, that's less time for other stuff, right? You got to,
Yeah.
like you said, you have to just
Right.
eliminate a bunch of things.
Right.
And our people around us kind of go, well, you used to be available for this and now you're never available.
Right.
Well, sorry, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. Come fly
Yes,
with me if you want to
exactly.
see me. And
Yeah.
um, so what advice would you give to those who want to follow in your path? And like, let's say if you were to mentor yourself now that you are where you are, what's the
Hmm.
single best piece of advice you would give yourself?
Um, you can't worry about what other people think, and just digging deeper into this this conversation we're having about, I think for women, in aviation, it's very intimidating for other women that aren't in aviation. And that becomes, a lot of people react out of fear, and they start um, if your friends, girlfriends aren't in aviation, then they become fearful of what they mean to you, maybe. And it becomes, I always try to think people aren't necessarily trying to hurt me. They're reacting out of some kind of fear, or something that they're lacking, something that they need that they don't have. And I try not to take it personally. And I've gotten to that point really just through flying and everything, that people are just reacting to their lives all the time. Don't take it personally. If somebody has a nasty comment on Instagram about my picture or whatever, I've got to just, and I tell myself they're having a bad day, and I can't help it that they didn't like that photo. It's not my fault,
Mm.
that how they're responding is not my fault. I know what my intentions are. I know I am trying to, get more women in aviation. I'm trying to do everything I can. I don't want to be, I'm not trying to look like a supermodel or anything. I know my intentions are good. So I can feel good about that. And I can't control how other people respond to it.
Yeah. Oh, that's a wonderful way of looking at it. Definitely. That's yeah, that's the way you know
I mean,
we're
I want everybody to like me. I've got a friend that was just like, Natalie, not everybody's going to like you. And I was like, well, why? I want everybody to like me. But that's just not how it is, and
yeah.
it's not my fault.
Well,
It's not.
you know the pyramid of Maslow, right? The Maslow pyramid that says
Mm-hmm.
our basic needs, and our basic needs, love is our basic need, like food, water, shelter, love. Like those are the basic needs.
Yeah.
So love is right there at the very beginning of that pyramid. And so it makes sense. As human beings, we need that validation,
Yeah.
that feeling of that emotion. We need that in our lives every day. You live a life without any love whatsoever, oof, that's a rough
Not
life.
good. Yeah.
Nobody wants to live that. So it makes sense. But you're right, like, at the end of the day, we also have to accept that people are just not going to like us, and people can be jealous of us,
Mm-hmm.
because and I'm finding that, I think in the last several years, and correct me if I'm wrong, but at least from what I've experienced, there's more sticking together now than there was before. There's more groups of really support that didn't
Mm-hmm.
exist before.
Yeah.
There's less cat fights and and stuff like
Yeah.
that, but there still are a few out there. And
Yeah.
I just don't focus on that energy when that happens to me. Like whenever I get a woman who's like really competitive and, well, I don't want you in my space kind of thing, it's like, okay. I'll
Yeah,
keep
right.
moving
And
along.
maybe those things, when you talk about advice, maybe some of those things, they just have to come with age. Realizing just with age, it's not something I can just say, well, I'm going to tell my 16-year-old self, don't worry about what everybody else thinks. Do it, it just doesn't necessarily sink in and work that way because of that age. Yeah, I wish I
Mm,
could have gone back and been like, you don't need to worry about what everybody else thinks of you, what everybody else thinks you need to be doing, how everybody else thinks you need to be performing, what they think you need to, do with your life. But I don't know if there's like, because of the age, if it's really realistic. Hopefully, I do feel like, I run into a lot of younger girls, and I call every female a girl, but that seemed to have it together at a much younger age than I had it together, and understood that they're valuable, and what they want is important and valuable, and it's worth, they are worth going after their own dreams, and trying not to pursue what everybody else thinks they need to be doing. That'd
yeah.
be my main thing.
Yeah. Great. And so my last really important question, was it all worth it? Does the sky still give you the absolute joy? Are you living the life of your dreams?
Yeah, yeah, more so than I ever really imagined it could be. I'm so much more confident, and so much more um, like in love with myself. It's weird to say, but I'm like proud of myself, and I think that I can do anything I really want to do if I just really want to put my mind to it. And I love helping other people. That's very fulfilling to me. So yeah, definitely. And flying is, you know, talking about perspective. I mean, it really does. When you are, you know, flying and you're looking at the earth, and you know, sunset is like my favorite time to fly. Everything's quiet. Everything just seems so unimportant, you know, and just like living in the moment there, knowing that it's going to end, you know, I'm going to land on the ground soon, and just enjoying that time. And of course, if I can take someone, I love to do that. I love to introduce aviation to someone else. Um, that's so fulfilling to me, to help other people that want to learn to fly, and to introduce it to other people and show them what it's like up there, and what's, you know, just enjoying the beauty. I mean, every night, you know, when you go out and it's just the sunsets every single time are different, and the landscape is everything. You know, it's different. Sometimes it's brown, sometimes it's green in the spring, and you just see all these people living their lives in their cars, driving around, and it's a beautiful thing.
Mhm. Yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah, really. So tell us about not Girls Go Fly, Fly Girl Kelley. What is Fly Girl Kelley?
Well, I mean, it's, you know, it's really this persona that I kind of created to go with the Fly Girl brand. It's kind of like the spokesperson, I guess, for the Fly Girl brand. It's all about trying to encourage other women. And I mean, I gravitate towards women that are, you know, maybe I would call career changers, people that were very similar to me, that it's not too late, and to show them what aviation can do for them, and try to help them in some way by either, you know, having scholarship money, by having some cute clothes to wear so that people know they're in aviation, or by, you know, my posts are really about showing, and I usually try to have some kind of positive quote or something. That quotes are really important to me, and if sometimes the right quote can just speak to me, and I want to have things like that, so that maybe, and it's fun when someone says, oh my gosh, I needed that quote today. um, just to encourage other women to that they can fly, you know, and they can do whatever they want to do. And I don't really judge them. I don't really care when they get started, but they can start at any time. And that's hopefully what people see Fly Girl is all about. That's what I want it to be about. That's kind of my goal.
Okay, so where can we see you? Where can we find out more about Fly Girl? How do we
Well, I
contact
have a website, flygirlllc.com, and there's products there. So the products, I sell them on my website. They're also sold through Banyan Pilot Shop, and they're sold through Sporty's Pilot Shop. The proceeds from the sales of my products go to funding scholarships for flight training. So, you know, it's like a feel good product, I like to say, and they're super cute. And I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Fly Girl Kelley, so you can find me there as well. But yeah.
Cool. Well, I love your products. I love the cuteness of them. They're really nice and feminine, and it's great. What do you fly? What airplane do you fly when you fly?
Well, I'm flying. So I had a Piper Archer that I purchased when I was going through my flight training. And I used that all through my instrument and commercial. And then I flew it around just to build some hours. And then I sold it and bought an RV-8. Um, yeah,
Wow.
which
That's
is
a nice
fun
machine.
because I wanted to learn aerobatics. So I was like, okay, I want to learn aerobatics, and I also still want to do cross country flying. So that seemed like the right plane for me. And I've done some, you know, flying of other airplanes. I just did my first ferry flight. I think you said you saw a picture in Texas. I had flown an airplane. It was a Turbo 210 from Ohio over to New Mexico. So that was fun. I mean, I like flying everything, and the more it's just kind of like I get super excited about learning to fly a different kind of airplane. You know, it's like a new adventure and a new a skill. It's just like one of those things. I'm like, yeah, I want to master it, every flight I can possibly master.
Way to go. That's amazing. Ferrying airplanes, so much fun. Cool.
Yeah.
So any last words you want to leave us with before we say goodbye?
I don't think so, but I really appreciate you having me on. It's been really fun getting to know you, and hopefully we can stay in touch.
Absolutely. Let's see if we can get more girls and more women excited about what we do, and let's just keep trucking along and getting those numbers up so that we can finally get out of that 5 point whatever percent and
I
and
agree.
bring it up. I'm still aiming for 25% by 2030 is my goal, and
wow, that'd be great.
Yeah, I think we can do it. I think we can do it. We just we need to just keep supporting. That's my big thing is I'm working on a huge project for Girls Go Fly that I can't really divulge yet, but I'm working on something really, really big with a great bunch of ladies that I'm so proud of, and we'll see where it takes us. But I think we're all on the right track, and I think if we all stick together and help each other and not see any competition anywhere, but more a healthy, I think there's room for all of us, because we really need even more of us to do this. I think we'll be able to get these girls to go into aviation and then stay there, because that's the big challenge, right? A lot of girls are getting their student license and their private pilot license, and then they're not going any further because they're lacking of funds or time or whatever. And so for sure.
Yeah, so true. Well, thank you for all that you're doing.
Thank you, and have a wonderful day. And I always finish with happy landings, everyone, and we'll be in touch soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.